a genocide was committed against my people, indiscriminate killing against my people. You know, we, the Jewish people, we recognize evil when we see it.
What happens when an Israeli government spokesperson with smooth talk faces a journalist who refuses to accept lies? You get an interview that feels like a public trial. Welcome to this video. What to expect: a relentless interrogation, sharp questions, evasive answers, and the slow public breakdown of the Israeli propaganda machine. The journalist is sharp, unforgiving, armed with facts, and has zero tolerance for hypocrisy. He's every government spokesperson's worst nightmare. David Mencer, spokesperson for the Israeli government, a master at repeating talking points by heart. He falls apart the moment he's asked for proof. His answers: numbers with no source, claims with no evidence, and a tone that swings between playing the victim and acting morally superior. This interview shows how language is used to justify war, because truth gets drowned in numbers, in framing, in spin, and because some people refuse to stay silent, like this journalist. You'll see Mencer lose credibility, sentence by sentence, and you'll hear how the most humane military clashes with images, data, and international law. So watch, respond, share, leave a comment. What's your take on this? Like the video if you value truth over propaganda, and subscribe if you're done with the sugar-coated version of reality. This isn't an interview. This is an autopsy on credibility. Let's begin.
What has Israel achieved through the war?
Well, first things first, Yama, it's important to understand that this was not a war we wanted. This war shocked us. Almost everyone here knows someone that was killed on October the 7th. It shook our very sense of security. Our war aims are the same as on day one. They are, of course, to defeat Hamas, to make sure that they cannot exist anymore politically, militarily, to bring back our hostages, and also to ensure that Gaza can never be a threat not only to Israel but to the civilized world as well. So those are our war aims.
You said your government set 3 goals: destroy Hamas, return the hostages, and give the Israelis their sense of security back. But you've failed to deliver on all these promises. Why is that, do you think?
So I would challenge that wholeheartedly. Militarily, the particulars are quite interesting. We think there are 24 battalions of Hamas. We think we've destroyed at least 18 or 19 of those military battalions. There are still 4 in Rafah.
You claim that you've destroyed 18 Hamas battalions. What is the proof of that?
So the proof is from the battlefield itself. We know the number of Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists that we've killed. We know we've killed at least 13,000 terrorists, armed terrorists. I remind you again.
How do you know that you've killed 13,000 terrorists?
Because they were firing at us.
So did you do a head count?
Yes.
So this is a verifiable fact, according to you.
I don't say that we have their lists, I don't say we have their names, but we have killed 13,000 combatants.
Yes, but it's just a number, Mr. Mencer. It's just a number. We have never seen any concrete proof that backs up this number.
So I'm a spokesman for this government. I'm a spokesman for this government and the Israeli people. And I'll tell you right now that we have killed 13,000 terrorists. We have executed the gold standard when it comes to firing and directing our war at the terrorists and getting civilians out of harm's way. We have no problem with the people of Gaza. We want them to have a better future, but we need to get rid of this genocidal, murderous organizations, and that is what we are doing.
You say you've set the gold standard. Your critics would say Israel is waging a genocidal war, according to UN experts. Israel finds itself in the docks in the International Criminal Court of Justice, which says there is plausible reason to believe genocide is being committed in Gaza. The EU says Israel is using starvation as a weapon against 2.2 million Gazans. It doesn't really sound like a gold standard.
So let me take those apart, because there's a lot in that question which you just asked. On genocide, I would point you to the fact that a genocide was committed against my people, indiscriminate killing against my people. You know, we, the Jewish people, we recognize evil when we see it. We've been very, very clear that it's a terrible war, it's a dangerous war. We've lost 606 of our soldiers in this war. But this country is united on its war aims, and we will be successful because, you know, we don't have anywhere else to go in this country. You know, there is only one Jewish state in the entire world.
Explain to us why you're bent on moving into Rafah with your forces.
So the first things first on this question of Rafah, we move civilian out of harm's way. That's very, very important to us. In all of the battles which we've fought, and they have been, it's an extremely complex military environment, extremely complex, because it is an urban, it's not a regular battlefield, it is an urban environment where Hamas fire at us from hospitals, from schools, from mosques.
There are 1.4 million people in Rafah.
Well, we believe there are about 1 million, and I think our figures are probably
but that's a
more
lot
trustworthy.
still.
It is.
A lot of people, a military offensive.
We encourage them to go there, to get out of harm's way.
Exactly, that's why they're there. But a military offensive into Rafah will end in a slaughter, the UN warns. Tell us, how are you going to evacuate all these people?
In the same way that we've done in the past.
That didn't work very well. You told people to move to what was a safe zone, then your forces would end up bombing that area. Are you going to follow the same formula?
So again, I think that's a misrepresentation of this war. We're after Hamas. We've got no problem with ordinary Gazans. I won't be sharing with you our battle plans. They're being discussed right now.
I'm not asking about the battle plan, Mr. Mencer.
So
I'm asking, how are you going to evacuate 1.4 million people out of Rafah?
We will do the same as we've done in other parts of this harsh military war. We move people out of harm's way. We've already acquired, there's been multiple reports of shelters which have been acquired, safe zones where people can move to.
We've also seen people with white flags in plain sight being shot by your forces. We've also seen people in so-called safe zones being bombed. So we've seen your forces kill people on the run from your bombs as well over the past 6 months.
So again, I would say to you that we feel we are the most humane army which has ever existed in living memory. We've done more to protect civilian lives. Where there have been, Yama, this is important. Let me share with you.
You even shot your own hostages.
Right.
That came out where there have alive, waved flags, and your soldiers.
An extremely terrible occurrence that was.
So how are people
where
in Gaza
we have
supposed
made
to feel
mistakes?
Safe? How are they?
Where we have made mistakes, we investigate, we wait for those results, and we adjust our behavior accordingly. That's what democracies do.
Does Israel abide by international law?
Yes.
A UN Security Council resolution passed more than 4 weeks ago demanded a ceasefire. It demanded a stop to the war. Such a resolution is legally binding for all UN members, yet your forces continue to bomb Gaza. Isn't that a clear breach of international law?
So the Americans made clear that it wasn't legally binding, and with all the legal cases you can get a number of opinions, but they made sure that it wasn't legally binding.
Why doesn't Israel respect the UN Security Council resolution ordering you to cease fire? You know that the only way Israel managed to release around 100 hostages was through negotiations, which paved the way for a ceasefire back in December. Yet you are continuing the war. Why?
We're not dealing with Norway here. We're not dealing with Scandinavia. We're dealing with a genocidal, murderous organization. We would love to be able to settle all of our differences around the negotiating table, but again and again and again, Hamas keep walking away. And you know, this war could end this afternoon, before the sun goes down behind me. This war could end right now if Hamas did two things: laid down their arms and released our hostages.
More than 34,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Your government rejects these figures. Why?
Would you take the figures of Al-Qaeda at face value?
But the UN and WHO says the figures from the Gaza Health Ministry, Hamas's health ministry, are reliable, that they even passed international scrutiny in previous wars. In fact, if you look up the numbers, in the wars in 2014 and 2021, Israel's and Hamas's casualty numbers were almost identical. Why would suddenly they lie in this current crisis and war?
The health ministry does not differentiate between a civilian combatant, which is a tragedy, we say that very, very clearly, and a terrorist. We do. We do.
The UN says these numbers coming from the Hamas Health Ministry are reliable. There's no reason to doubt them because several times this health ministry during this war has published long lists of names where you have the ID number, their names. Detailed lists have been published documenting who has been killed inside the Gaza Strip during this war. You claim you've killed 13,000 Hamas fighters, yet you haven't produced any lists whatsoever. No documentation. It's a number you're giving the world.
It's a number which our army has given to us in a democratic country with checks and balances, with media scrutiny, with all the Western values that Norway holds dear or should hold dear.
Well, Mr. Mencer, I ask you again, where is the concrete proof that you've killed 13,000 fighters? Okay, you claim it, but where is the proof? At least Hamas's health ministry has published lists confirming who has died several times.
I wouldn't take Hamas's word for anything, literally anything.
So we shouldn't believe Hamas, we shouldn't believe the UN, the World Health Organizations, all the aid groups on the ground, rights groups from all over the world. We shouldn't believe them, we should believe the Israeli government.
You'll excuse me if I feel extremely skeptical about almost anything which comes out of the United Nations. We are a proud member of the United Nations. Our officials express our beliefs in the United Nations, and we defend ourselves as is the right thing to do. But, you know, all of us here in Israel feel extreme skepticism at the double standards which the UN constantly throws at us. We simply don't take their word for it. They're simply quoting Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal organization, and we simply can't, you wouldn't take ISIS' word for it, so why on earth would you take Hamas's word for it?
Let's move on to the attacks you've carried out against Gaza's hospitals. The UN says Gaza's health system has been completely destroyed by your forces. Why have you attacked most of the hospitals in Gaza?
Because there is almost not one hospital or medical institution that has not been used as a base for terror, as for weapons storage, with tunnels underneath. Hamas is a deadly terrorist organization, so you know they killed more than 1,200 of my people on October the 7th, babies and beheadings and rapes and terrible, terrible things. So, you know, I think we shouldn't take...
Have the beheadings, by the way, been proven?
Yes.